Well, hello, everybody. My name is Glenn Warren. I am your host for this series uh, and the Vice President of Government Relations for the California School Library Association. I'd like to welcome all of you to the sixth installment of an eight-part series on information and digital literacy essentials, brought to you by the California School Library Association, statewide CTAP, and the California Department of Education. I would also like to extend a very special thanks to Madera County Office of Education for their superintendent, Dr. Cecilia Massetti, for providing the Adobe Connect platform for this series. We are very, very excited to have the wide-ranging support for this series on digital and information literacy, simply because there's a need for a wide divergent view of how schools implement this type of education. And it's certainly not a two-dimensional approach. We definitely need multiple stakeholders, and that's why we have an eight-part series. Today, we are talking about copyright and intellectual property. Now, I know teachers excel at copyright and intellectual property issues. Now, I'll leave it to you to decide what kind of excelling teachers and faculty in this area. But we have with us today Marcely Hancock. She is a nationally and internationally recognized speaker on the issue of digital citizenship issues, cyber safety, security, ethics, responsibility. She has served on industry consumer advisory boards and participates on online safety committees. Marcely's everywhere. She has been worked with AT&T, Verizon, Comcast, Yahoo. She even has worked with Yahoo's, Microsoft, Google, and currently she is actually working on a project for the Center for Copyright Information, and actually has served previously as an advisory board member of that organization. And Marcely, there's not enough time to give your CV to everybody. And on top of everything else, you're extremely humble. We'd like to welcome you to this series. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Glenn. I appreciate that, and I think the world of the work that you do. And I have to take a moment to thank the teacher librarians. I have a large family, and the most influential long-term help we've had at school with educators is first our librarian, and then the second is our school counselor. So I just can't thank you enough for the role that you play and the advantage that a school librarian has over all the other people in a child's life, particularly in an elementary school or a high school setting where you see those students every day or very often, is they have a lifelong impact. We lived in a small area with not a very good city library, and our school librarian just opened up reading and literacy to my children in a way that I couldn't even do, because she knew books and series that my kids would love that I didn't even know about. So anyway, thank you for the work you're doing. Today we're going to talk about the Center for Copyright Information. I'm on their advisory board as a consultant. The Center for Copyright Organization was designed, and I'll talk a little bit about who's there, but their goal is to address this copyright infringement that seems to be growing exponentially. So it's become a serious issue, and the content industry and the ISPs, they've come together with a plan to try to help curb some of that, but not through a big stick, more with education. So their goal, CCI's goal, is to alleviate confusion and help internet users find ways to enjoy digital content that they love in a way that's legal and ethical. Now, iKeep Safe is a nonprofit, and we focus on digital literacy, and our core areas break into these 6 components: balance, ethics, privacy, reputation, relationships, and online security. So within our track of ethics, how we share, create, and use digital files is an important lifelong skill that we want our children to be very comfortable and confident doing, because what they do today impacts their future opportunities academically and with their future employment. So we want them to be able to understand and model responsible use. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about CCI, the Center for Copyright Information. It's all the big players within the content space. So it's the recording artists, the motion picture artists, and Viacom. and others, and then some of the biggest ISPs and really the bulk of them between AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, and many others. They've come together and they have two core jobs that they're trying to accomplish. What makes this, oh, I'm missing my buttons on slides, so let me come to slide 2. So here's a little bit about the individuals who are participating in the organizations. What makes this group different, industries come before to look at educational initiatives, but it was always the industry. So what makes this organization different is on the advisory board we have Gigi and Jerry and Jules. And these are individuals who are nationally known and recognized for free speech, for open access, civil liberties. So when you get content from CCI, from the Center for Copyright Information, it explores the real message, not just what industry wishes that we would say about fair use and copyright, but really what is the best information. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to work with Gigi, Jerry, and Jules. And Glenn has met with this team in DC. He came out to help us with the project representing the California School Library Association. And when you talk to these, they're all attorneys, when you talk to them about copyright, these are icons, and it's almost like you're seeing lightning bolts of paradigms between the two camps of content, ISP, and the free speech folks. So it's been an interesting experience. But in the process, having Glenn and the School Library Association's perspective, it means that we'll have content that's usable and help students and educators understand what it is, what copyright is, and what it looks like in the classroom rather than what you can't do. So the goal for CCI actually has two components. One is people will get a notice, and I've had this happen at my house where Comcast sent me a notice and says, oh, knock, knock, somebody is using our service, my Comcast service, to download an illegal file. So rather than it having to be a slap on the wrist, the opportunity is to send a notice that helps to educate the household. So our goal is, ICAPSAFE's goal is to help with that message for parents, but then also important today is to look at what's our opportunity within the classroom setting. So what we're going to focus on today is what CCI is doing to help in the school, in the culture of school, create, collaborate, and share information ethically and responsibly. So what does that look like? How do we model it? How do we get people feeling comfortable? And how does it play out in our schools? So when we met together with the content folks, the internet service providers, and advisory boards, the big question was, how do we model and teach ethical use regarding intellectual property? What does that look like in the classroom? So my hand went up and I said, hello, I think the greatest champions out there are going to be the school librarians because they're already media literacy champions. They're on site. And if you look at what changes behavior, so the science, the public health science, is the study of implementing new habits and behaviors. And when you look at the public health message, they tell us that people have to hear the message from someone they know and trust. So not an outsider, not somebody from another planet or a big city or a small city. They need to hear the message from someone they know and trust, and it needs to be positive and optimistic. And who in the school setting is going to be more positive and optimistic about media literacy and modeling good behavior with media content than the teacher librarians? So we reached out and connected with Glenn and his team, and it's been a terrific experience. And the work that we're doing in California with the California School Library will scale out. So the first projects we're doing here are in California, and then we'll scale out nationally. So I love the report, the Speak Up report from Project Tomorrow, and this quote here I think absolutely sums up how we feel about and would like to leverage those champions in local communities. So this quote is from a media specialist in Ohio. I view myself as a secret weapon at our school. Common Core's emphasis on explanation, complex text, and interdisciplinary combinations is my expertise. I see my role as helping teachers work through their curriculum, help develop research-driven activities that require reading rich text, complex thought, and purposeful lessons. And my own personal experience is that teacher librarian is going to look at my child eyeball to eyeball and help them understand how to navigate the media and the digital environment. So the opportunity for teacher librarians to be the most effective champion in this area, I think, is hands down our #1 favorite group. So why do we want to engage our teacher librarians and media specialists? the librarians, this is a quote from Project Tomorrow, and this is from their research, that the librarians and media specialists are increasingly playing a critical role in building the capacity of the classroom teacher. So I don't know if any of you bake, but if you know the role of yeast in a loaf of bread, it only takes a little bit and everybody else benefits. So for us, we see teacher librarians as that leaven that actually helps to raise the digital culture and the understanding within their influence of the school systems where they're working. So in Speak Up Tomorrow and Project Tomorrow, they had 3 areas where they felt the teacher librarians and the media specialists could be the most helpful. They can mentor by the instruction, they can be the mentor, the instructional coach. They can set up the teacher support in the community, and they can, the support of the library media specialist who can help with the identification of appropriate digital content and tool identification and support implementation with students. So there's we see the teacher librarian as the bridge between here's the idea and concepts, here's the tools and the content that we're going to use to get it, and here's the outcomes of students and educators who feel much more comfortable and much more confident in how they use and share digital media, and how can they do that in a way that's ethical and responsible. So this is a sample of the content that we're creating. We want to follow the public health model, which is it needs to be fun and it needs to be easy. So we wanted to use language that represented more of how we feel about our digital content. So we wanted students to know, how do we create digital media, and how do we create content or intellectual property? Then how do we play fair with it? And then how do we share it? How do we respect the rights of the creators, and how do we set up our own expectations for when we create something and we want to make decisions about how it's used. So I'm going to show you a brief overview, and Leslie Farmer and Glenn Warren have been extremely helpful in helping us set up the framework of how we can express these concepts within the framework of your model library standards and be able to scale out nationally. So over here on this slide, we're listing out there's going to be one concept, K through 6. This is our phase 1 is to develop 1 through 6, K through 6, and then our next phase will be to do the middle and the high school. But we'll take each concept, and every year we'll add, and this lines up identically with we took it straight out of the media, I have to remember how to say that correctly, Glenn, the model library standards in California. So the first
Model
one,
School Library Standards in California.
Thank you.
Model School Library Standards.
Model School
No
Library.
problem. It's a mouthful. I just like to refer to them as those.
Well, I should have put it in the slide so I could have remembered, but it's what you've been working on for years. It's now written in, and it's something that's a terrific model for the rest of the country. So what we'll do is in kindergarten talk about how do we respect the person who created it, and what is the concept. Second grade, it'll be the review of how to respect the person. Then the concept about permission. So if I create something, then I also get to decide, and we set up the permissions that we allow people to use, and the creator gets to decide, not the person who views it. And then in second grade, we'll recognize that becomes intellectual property, and we are going to respect the artist's permission. And then the third grade, it's repeating the respect the person, the concept of permission, recognizing property, and then the new concept is respect the creator. So understanding that digital files, with sharing with digital files, it's not like sharing your pizza. When I share my pizza with a friend, we cut up that pizza and everybody gets a piece, and then it's gone. If I share a book, I give you my book, now you have it, I don't have it. If I share a digital file, it's actually not sharing, it's copying and duplicating. So in the digital world, we've used the word sharing when really what we're doing is copying and duplicating. So by third grade, we want students to understand that, because we know by the research from the Rochester Institute of Technology that by fourth grade, kids are already downloading illegal music and game files, and they feel totally fine about that. So we want students to recognize that when they create, they get to choose to be the creator, they get to choose the permissions, and then as a community, we can respect those permissions. Then in fourth grade, yeah, go ahead. Yes. So thank you for your leadership in this area. We wanted to start these ethical conversations as soon as they come to school, as soon as they start using digital media, as soon as they start creating. So our first lesson in kindergarten is actually going to be about putting our name on our work. So it'll fit within the context of what teachers are helping kindergartners to understand, which is when you do work, you put your name on it. And that's how your teacher knows that it's yours. We don't put our name on someone else's picture or someone else's document. So yes, the goal is to start very early so we lay down a foundation of ethical digital citizens. And that has to happen by modeling good behavior from the adults and having youth hear the message from people they know and trust. It will not happen by accident that kids are ethical online. Not just ethical about digital files, but ethical about how they treat each other in a myriad of ways. All these conversations really need to happen starting in kindergarten. We're starting early, and you've been incredibly helpful in setting the framework for what can we actually teach kindergartners and first graders. So by fourth, fifth, and sixth grade, it's how do we collaborate in the digital space? How do we recognize each other? How do we recognize the sequences? And then we'll review all of the pieces. So we'll have short videos, we'll have lesson plans, we'll have activities that are both on and offline. So as an educators, you have a framework to introduce children to ethical behavior in a way that is fun, it's positive, it's optimistic, it's not draconian, it's not all about what's illegal, it's all about what's respectful, what's plain fair, and what does share mean, share with digital media. Because sharing with digital media is not like sharing a piece of pizza or your jelly beans. Sharing in the digital world is duplicating, replicating, copying, and the creator gets to choose how we copy and duplicate and use their work. So I'm almost like 1.5 minutes left. You will be seeing this information before the back to school time framework, so you'll have it and you'll have access to it in the school. The California School Library Association will be helping to pilot and test it. We'd love to hear from you, comments, ideas, feedback. So my personal email address is here. It's mhancock@ikeepsafe.org. The company one is iKeepSafe, and you'll find content about digital citizenship and what it means to be a pro online at ikeepsafe.org. So I hope I've left enough time for us to have some Q&A and answers. I'd love to hear back from you.